A happy Friday to you, hockey fans. Thanks for checking in with us. We've got a really cool treat tonight. As you've been following along for the past couple of months, we've been celebrating the 25th anniversary of hockey coming to the Quad Cities. We've seen some great old pictures, gotten to relive some great memories. And tonight, we have the opportunity to talk with a guy that we knew was going to be one, but you all certainly voted as one of the fan favorites, played collegiately at Acadia University, came to the Quad Cities, was here for a long time, and won a ton of hockey games. Coming to us tonight from, I believe, Kennebunkport, Maine, Mark McFarlane. Mark, thanks very much for joining us. And are you in Kennebunkport tonight?
I am. I am in Kennebunkport. George Bush's place is just down the road.
Very well. And the topic of discussion around the country the last few weeks has been weather. What's the weather like up there right now?
You know, we escaped a little bit earlier this week. We had some ice and stuff like that. I was driving down the road. There was a power line down in the ditch on fire, smoking in the ditch, and I'm driving. There's ice all over the power lines, and I'm driving through just praying, going, please don't fall on my car. But no, it's been cold here. Like it's just seasonal in Maine. Like you're used to it. January, February, March are cold months, but that only means we can skate outside, and the economy really booms up here this time of year when the snowmobilers, they get out, the ice fishermen and everything else. So it's a real good. We need cold weather here, just like we need warm weather in the summer for the tourists.
Well, that's good to hear. Have you been able to get out on the ice any lately?
Yeah. I got a rink right down the road. Actually, it's a pretty nice community rink, Westbrook skating rink. Some of my buddies volunteer there and stuff, but it's a nice sheet. It's about the size of a football field, believe it or not. And they just section it off, and there's kids playing hockey, and there's adults skating, and little kids learning to skate and stuff. It's all sectioned off and everything. And a Pittsburgh Penguins star that's from this area, Brian Dumoulin, grew up playing there, and they just announced that he's going to be donating a bunch of money and stuff to put some snow removal equipment and some ice resurfacing stuff for them. And so it's just a great community, like ice rink. But we have ponds everywhere, man. I was skating on lakes and stuff. You could skate for 3 days on, you know what I mean? So wow. It's definitely that time of year. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear in your case the weather's cooperating to make all that happen. We've been without the ice here this season, and it's been a big bummer for us, our fans. But it's given us a chance, kind of celebrating this 25th anniversary, to go back in time and really relive some of the good old days of hockey past here. And you were here for a lot of those days. When I say Quad City Mallards, when you think back on those times, what are some of the things that pop into your mind right away?
Well, just the euphoria, at the rink every night, and just the crowds, just the buzz around town. I mean, anywhere we went back in the day when I was there, I mean, like everybody knew who you were. You couldn't you couldn't go to the grocery store. You couldn't go. Pump gas, man. People are like pulling you over. You see the beat reporters, at places and stuff. And, so it was just, for me and that era, I mean, the Quad City Mallards were the hottest ticket in town. And, the fans and the community was just unbelievable, like when we were there.
Well, it's very clear to see that, our fans, even current day, have not forgotten those times, and their love for you and all the players that made those times still special is definitely still there. Mentioned when we were getting going, you played collegiately at Acadia, won a University Cup there, if I'm not mistaken. And then when you came in to the league your first year pro, you actually started in the old Southern Hockey League and then played with a few different teams in the ECHL. I was curious to know, we get so many players coming through here. As a first-year pro, were you enjoying kind of going to the different teams playing, or were you looking for that one place to kind of settle down and find that one team to stick with?
Quite frankly, Brian, I mean, I had no clue what I was getting into. I wasn't even going to play after college. I mean, I was done in my mind. I mean, I didn't train for the next season. I had a couple of teammates that were off playing in Dayton, Ohio, actually, in the East Coast League, and I think it was in like October or November. Their team was struggling, the Dayton Bombers, and Kevin Knopp and Dennis Broxton, my good buddies. Dennis was my roommate at Acadia, and they called me and said, "Hey, you want to come play?" And I had some things go on and personally, and was looking for a change. And I said, "Sure, I'll come," and whatnot. But I was never, I didn't know what I was getting into, to be honest. Like, I mean, that first year, I mean, I went out and I got to camp, and the coach was like, we're going to let you play yourself into shape. Well, the team wasn't doing well. And so I figured I'd get there and I'm just going to watch some games. And I watched like one game and practice like 2 or 3 practices. And then on the third practice, he goes, "You're in tonight." And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean you're in tonight? I'm in tonight. He goes, "You're in tonight." So I'm like, okay, here we go. Right. Like I'm in a pro hockey game, my first pro hockey game. And, he told me, he goes, you don't have to fight tonight. Like, don't fight. I just want, we just want you to go out and try to hit and do, contribute to the team that way. But sure enough, I think it was my first shift into the game, man. The guy hit me and I looked at him and he looked at me and the gloves are off, like, and I was into it. I was playing pro hockey and that was my first experience, but I never really like, and again, I mean, I didn't know day to day, like what it was like or anything, and ended up, there, and the team was struggling. They were affiliated with Dallas at the time, the Stars, and Ken Hitchcock was the coach there. And I had played in the Western Hockey League for 3 years before I went to Acadia. And he knew of me and everything else like that, and knew what I brought to the table. But ended up, they sent guys down, and I got put on waivers, and I ended up like only there for probably like a few weeks. And next thing I know, man, I got picked up by Raleigh off waivers and North Carolina. So I'm going from Nova Scotia to Dayton, Ohio, to Raleigh, North Carolina, all within like, probably within 3 weeks or a month. And I didn't know really what I was getting myself into. It was kind of a lonely experience, to be honest.
Sure. Well, and that's so interesting. You weren't even sure if you were, going to pursue playing because you get through that first season. And then how did you get tied in? I believe John Anderson was the head coach at the time of the Mallards. How did you hear from them?
Yeah. So so after the Raleigh, I had a little stint in Raleigh there, and I played well. I had a point a game, and penalty minutes. I had some fights and stuff. And again, the same thing. I was a victim of numbers. And I can't remember who they were. I think they were Carolina Hurricanes or something like that. And they got guys sent down. And then I'm saying, the guy's like, "You got 3 days in the hotel." So I went on waivers. Nobody picked me up because they didn't know of me pretty much. And so I'm sitting in a hotel. I had a friend from Acadia that was living in North Carolina. And I ended up, I exhausted the 3 days. And so this guy picks me up. I mean, I didn't have a dime. You know what I mean? I didn't have a dime. I had 2 bags, one with hockey gear and one with everything else I owned in it. And so I ended up going with this guy for a few days. And I called my father, who played pro years prior, and John Brophy was in Hampton Roads at the time in the East Coast Hockey League, and so he got me basically a tryout. So I showed up at the rink in Raleigh. They were playing there, and he talked to Brophy. And he goes, "Yeah, bring your stuff. We got a game tonight." And he's like, "You're coming with us," like that. And so I bring my stuff, I watch the game, get on the bus. Like after the game, I didn't know anybody. Get on the bus with the team, and the first thing he did, he's lifted up my shirt and seen how fat I was. Right, he squeezed my belly, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, we got some work to do, whatever." And so, anyways, and it was right around Christmas at that point. And the guys were all going home, like back to Canada or wherever in the U.S. they live for like Christmas break. So I went back to an apartment with a couple guys. I think it was Aaron Downey and Steve Richards had an apartment there. And so I went to the apartment. They went to Canada or whatever. And I was like Christmas Day by myself, man, at Virginia Beach, sitting on the beach going, what is going on here? Where am I at? Like, you know what I mean? And anyways, they ended up coming back. And again, man, I was like never really, I didn't prepare for the season. I played pretty well there. I had a couple good fights for them too. And I think I scored a goal or two in Hampton. And then they got guys sent down from Washington. And again, the same thing, man. Now I got to, and then bro promised my father, because my father played for him back in the day. He said, don't worry, I'll get him a place to play. So John Anderson was coaching in Winston-Salem in the Southern Hockey League at the time. And so I got, he goes, don't worry, we're going to get you back up here. It's just numbers. So he goes, go down there and play well and come back up. So I ended up going to Winston-Salem, North Carolina from there. I think I got a plane ticket or something. They sent me a plane ticket or something. I got on the plane and went to Winston, and I ended up playing like really well there. And I had about a good month. And then Hampton called me back up because they had injuries and stuff in Washington. And then I don't know who their affiliate was in the American League, but so I ended up going back there. And again, I played a few more games, and then finally I went back to Winston, and then I played really well there for John. And Steve Sandromano was there as well. Or actually, he wasn't there. We played against Sandromano, and he was in Daytona, and we ended up playing them in the playoffs and stuff like that. But anyways, we lost in the final to Huntsville that year in the Southern League, and then John Anderson got the Quad City job. And he goes, man, you played well for me. He goes, I want you to come to Quad City with me. And I'm like, where's Quad City? I had no clue where it was. Quad City. You want me to come to Quad City? Where's that at? And he's like, well, he goes, I'll tell you what. And I had a couple other offers, like places to go maybe. And he said, well, I'll get you a tryout in Fort Wayne. So I said, all right, I'll go. And so I ended up going to Fort Wayne's camp, played a few exhibition games and got cut there. And then ended up going, from Fort Wayne to Quad City to the camp there. And that's kind of how I ended up there.
Wow. That's a great path you were on. And it's good you were kind of willing to go with the flow, because you ended up having such an awesome run, here with the Mallards. When we've been bringing back and having the fans vote, a lot of the names you'd probably expect, getting down towards especially the top of your name, Toporowski, Gibson, a lot of the names up in the rafters and fan favorites. Who were a couple players you remember that were key parts, especially those championship runs that might not have been, they might not have been here the longest or been the biggest name, but were a huge piece of the success that might not be appreciated as much as they should be?
Well, obviously, I mean, guys like the guys that scored the big goals for us, you know what I mean? Like Freddie Nosball, Ryan Black, I mean, Scott Bell, some of those guys that weren't, like you said, weren't there for the long haul, but were very much as important as a lot of the other guys, you know what I mean? But we had a lot of guys, man, that came and played integral roles for us at different parts of the season. I mean, there were guys coming up and going down. I mean, all the time. Like Howard Cornfield was an unbelievable GM for us, and he always got us like good players. Jean-Guy Trudel came in and lit it up. Like, I mean, I don't. He wasn't there very long, man, but I think he scored more goals in 3 weeks than I scored my whole career there. Like, but there was just a whole myriad of players. Marty Filion, I mean, Sergei Zhivagin went down, injured, and Marty came in and was unbelievable and was a pillar of the community with John Deere, and worked and stayed and ended up marrying a Quad City girl. I mean, there were so many guys. Like, I mean, Dave Larson, I mean, in my first year, I mean, big, heavy guys like, so we had no shortage of talent, but I mean, you also had those glue guys and guys that showed up. I mean, you're playing Thunder Bay and some of those, big tough teams. I mean, we had a lot of guys that came in and had to play a role, because I mean, you go in there and they had like 8 or 9 like tough guys. You know what I mean? like Mel Ingolstadt. I mean, like Kevin Holliday. I mean, there was a ton of them, and we had to make it so our guys could play, and our talented guys, and we had no shortage. Like I said, they didn't like coming into Quad City very much either. Put it that way.
That's awesome. It's funny you mentioned John Gee. He is actually the head coach of our rival team in Peoria now. So
Oh, is that right?
that's a name that Quad City fans have loved, and now maybe don't love as much. That's funny
Is
to
that
hear
right?
how he lit it up when he came in.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I think he had like four hat tricks in a row or something. Like, I mean, it was
wow.
ridiculous. You can look it up. I'm not sure of the stats, but I mean, he was like just lighting it up. And then of course, he was back up in like I think it was San Antonio or something that we were affiliated with back then. But yeah, like I said, there were a lot of guys that came along like throughout the years that contributed. I can't remember them all now, but I mean, like, other than like the guys that were there, like, you know what I mean, for the most part. I mean, Steve Chelios was another guy that came in and played well for us. I mean, like we had, it seemed like every year, like everybody wanted to come to Quad City, man. When I was there, I mean, even the coaches, man, it was a, you know what? And I mean, you look at the coaches that have coached there over the years. I mean, that Quad City job was right up there with American League and International League jobs. And if guys didn't get those, man, they wanted to come to Quad. I mean, you look at Paul McLean, John Anderson, Paul Gillis, and I think did the Hammer coach there too, Dave Schultz? Or no, Ruskowski. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think Schultz did, but yeah,
No,
a
no,
lot of those guys went
I
on to
coached again.
the
Yeah,
and
he
to
was in
yeah
Madison actually.
to your point, a lot of those guys ended up as assistants or even head coaches in the NHL.
Absolutely.
And Sue, speaking of the NHL, you mentioned you'd been able to get out on the ice a couple of times. Do you still watch a good amount of pro hockey at any of the levels?
Every night. I watch it every night. I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, you know what I mean? And it's been a tough grind for us for 50 years, but I'm a lifer. I grew up, my mother's family my mom had 11 siblings, and, Hockey Night in Canada was huge, obviously, growing up, but, five were Montreal fans, five were Toronto Maple Leaf fans, and two were Bruins fans. And my
Wow.
mom is a huge Boston Bruins fan. In fact, I was able to get her down here from Nova Scotia, which was a miracle in itself because she hasn't left Nova Scotia probably about once in the last like 40 years. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And was able to bring her to a game, and it was one of the highlights of my life, man. Like watching her up in the stands, and it was an afternoon game against the Rangers, and the Bruins were down, I think 3-2 going into the third, and ended up tying it up and winning in overtime. And just the look on her face and her dancing in the stands with all them Bruin fans. You know what I mean? I didn't even watch the game. I just watched her the whole time. You know what I mean?
Oh, that is too cool. That is too cool. Hockey is it's a magical sport. It does things like that, and like you said, it provides some special moments. Uh, I wanted to ask you one last question. I read a real neat article on it. 2018, you were inducted into the Multi-Ethnic Sports Hall of Fame. That had to be a pretty special honor for you. You could talk a little bit about how that came about and what that did mean to you.
Yeah, that was a complete surprise actually. Like so, my father, and to be inducted with my father and my best friend growing up, Craig Martin, who played in the NHL with Winnipeg and Florida and the Detroit Red Wings as well. And I mean, we were like two peas in a pod growing up, and my father. So they tried to do some stuff back home, like just to recognize local players. I mean, in our small town that we grew up in, I mean, to have like, you know, three players to play professional hockey, let alone three black players to play professional hockey, is unheard of. And a guy named Arif Khatib, he was out of California, but he's the guy in charge of that multi-ethnic sports hall of fame. And I mean, there's all athletes from all different sports that are in that thing if you do your research on that. But it was a real nice, acknowledgement to be inducted into that. I mean, they put a real nice thing on him back in my hometown, and some of my old teammates, showed up. I didn't even know they were going to be there. I mean, it was it was pretty amazing to walk in and see, like, you know what I mean, old teammates, and it kind of, you know, geez, you know, I must have did something pretty good, you know what I mean, like over the years, you know, so I mean, I think it's, you know, the game now is there's a lot more ethnic kids playing the game, and which is good. You know, I just, you know, we took the bullets a little bit. Like my father took the bullets. I mean, you know, like just being black and being a minority in that game. And I just hope it gets a little easier for the younger kids. But if not, you know, you use it as fuel and to push yourself a little bit harder. I mean, you know, to get to where you want to go.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I think the sport certainly has a ways to go, but there is progress being made, and it's largely in part, like you said, because of the people who have come before, the kids that are playing now. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Mark, I know we'll hang on probably to talk a little bit after we sign off, but really appreciate you doing this. It was great hearing from you, some awesome stories, and I know the Quad City hockey fans are going to be really excited to see you.
Well, I'll tell you, like, I mean, and just in closing, some of the best fans I've ever been around, and all the places I've played, and I've won like 5 championships and everything else. And I still keep in touch, like Dave and Colleen Moore. I think they're probably still in your boosters. You know, Howard Cook. I mean, these people flew out to Nova Scotia to see me in the summer. I mean, you know, Dave and Colleen. I played golf with Dave out here in Maine. You know, I still keep in touch. You know, Chuck and Jill Smalley, Mark Matthews used to help out around the rink. I mean, these are all like unbelievable people that you know, made the Quad Cities you know, great places to play. I mean, some of the restaurant owners and the restaurateurs and the bar owners that took us in, you know, never charged us a dime. We'd go into their establishments and we'd fill their place full of fans and stuff, and you know, and the fans were just as important as the players back then. You know what I mean? Like it was like, you know, we get guys that were hanging out with fans more than they were hanging out with the guys on the team. Like guys would go fishing with them, go hunting with them. You know what I mean? Like we had a couple cops in the Quad Cities. Guys would go to the shooting range. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I think for you know, but it all comes with winning, and everybody wants to be around a winner. And you know, you get back to that. I don't care where you are. I think you can do that in the Quad City because they're looking for winners there, and they love winners. They love being associated with winners. And like I said, we were golfing. You know what I mean? Like for free. I mean, like they were taking care of us all over that place, and you know, we provided them with a lot of you know, you know, a lot of success in the Quad Cities, and put the Quad City on the map. Back then, like I said, I had no clue where Quad Cities was before I went there. But I guarantee you, after, like, you know, playing there for 6+ years, everybody where I'm from knew where the Quad Cities was, you know. And I think you get a winning team, and that's what you get back to.
Well, we're certainly headed that way, and we're excited for it. We want to bring that magic back, and
Absolutely.
we're excited for the 25th season. So we'll wrap up our recorded interview here, and Mark, we certainly hope to see you back here for the 25th season celebration next year.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'd love to be there.